Story 1. We had a great time at Bar 1 and proceeded to Bar 2. Immediately after arriving at Bar 2, music was playing and people were dancing. She started making fun of a woman who was just dancing and enjoying herself. She even got other people's attention around us and pointed at the dancing lady. I left when she wasn't looking. Story 2. I have to live with my mom because all three of my children's mothers insist that I pay child support. I think I need to add that he wasn't mentioning it, he was complaining about it. Like, if these women didn't insist on child support, I would be able to move out. And I have to put dinner on my credit card because I'm always broke because I have to pay child support. I paid for my own meal, by the way, which I don't mind doing. I always insist on the first date so they don't think I owe them something in return. But he had to put his $12 Denny's meal, yes, he insisted on Denny's, on a credit card. Story 3. I had a guy do nothing but monologue about his ex the entire date. He kept repeating the same, but I'm totally over her line. It got so bad he even started showing me pictures and her social media, showing me that she was dating someone new now. I kind of just realized this guy needed someone to talk to in that moment, and I really had nothing better going on. So forget it. Speak your truth, man. The date was 2.5 hours long. Story 4. He was going on about a trip he took with his old college friends, and I started tuning out. Then he said, and my friend, Rob, was like, wait until these women figure out we're not choking them because they like it. Ha ha ha. Took me way too long to fully comprehend what he was saying. Like, dude, you're telling me you hate women, or your friend does, and it amuses you, on our first date. Are you aware I am a woman? That was the end of that. Story 5. We went to a club where there was a lot of dancing. There was a woman there who was clearly intoxicated and passed out on the dance floor. I don't know how she was still standing upright, as she looked like she shouldn't be. I said to my date that I wanted to find her friends and make sure she got home safely, as that made me sad and worried for her. And my date said, well, most girls have fantasies about being assaulted, so she probably would like it. Needless to say, I rejected his offer to stay over that night and braved the New York City subway at 2 a.m. instead. There was no second date. Story 6. I cycle through my friend groups about once every 3 weeks when they get boring. Okay, cool. So you will bring in a new friend when you are bored of me. Story 7. For context, I have cerebral palsy. I am well adjusted, so it's not always obvious, but I needed tons of occupational therapy and physical therapy growing up, and I currently have a hard time with balance, spatial perception, and muscle control. I landed a date with this very attractive girl. She ticked off all the boxes I liked, and she was very sweet to boot. By all accounts, the date was going perfectly. We were both having a great time, we held hands briefly, and the time seemed to fly by. Towards the end, though, we decided to take a subway to a bar I really liked across town, and she saw a sign that stated seated passengers would need to surrender their seats to elders and disabled people who need them. She blatantly said that she hates disabled people getting accommodations, said disabled people are drains on society, and expressed her view that if someone is disabled enough to need a special parking spot or a seat, then they should commit themselves to homes. Her tone changed suddenly, and I couldn't believe it. She became like a different person for a minute. I finished the date, but in my head, I realized that no amount of external attractiveness could make up for internal nastiness. About an hour after I got home, she texted me saying she had a wonderful time and asked me on a second date. I apologized and said no, that I was not interested. She asked why, and I told her that I was, in fact, a disabled person and was hurt by her comments on the subway, and she never responded. One of my friends was annoyed that I turned down such an attractive girl until I explained all of what happened. That was that. Story 8. I don't want to be in a relationship with a person with a disability. I wear an ankle support which you would never know unless I showed you. I don't wear shorts as I'm a bit insecure about it. The only reason she found out was I loosened it while we were sitting at the table because having it tightened for long periods makes my ankle ache. Story 9. As I exited my car in the parking lot to meet up for dinner, someone shouted, "Oh my God, you lied. You said you were 5 feet 8 inches tall. You are at least 5 feet 10 inches in heels. Do you not see how embarrassing this is for me?" I immediately got back in my car and drove away. We hadn't even greeted each other yet. He just angrily screamed this at me from 20 feet away. He is 5 feet 10 inches. I had no problem with him being 5 feet 10 inches, but apparently he does. It was a weird interaction. Story 10. Within seconds of my arrival, he mentioned that he needed the medical examiner to hurry up and release his wife's death certificate because he needed the insurance money for a business he was starting. She drowned in the bathtub while drunk. His first wife allegedly died in an accidental fall. The major airline he flies for has a serial killer in its ranks. Story 11. Girl, 26 years old. I went on a date with. I work 2 days a week, and it's so draining. Normal 8-hour days, mind you. I just work to pay the minimum on my debt. I live with my parents otherwise, but they want me to find someone so I can move out. She had zero ambition to do anything besides get a boyfriend to take care of her. Story 12. Had a date with a guy who interrupted me several times and then told me, I just really love interrupting you because you make this weird face when I do. I ended the date about 5 minutes later. Story 13. Not on the date, but after I had gotten home. He kept texting me, begging to come over, and kept saying it as one word, come over, which annoyed me. Come on, let me come over. Can I come over? Non-stop. I barely knew the guy. I'm not inviting him to my house, and the fact that he was so insistent about it was unsettling. The date itself was decent, but this really creeped me out and annoyed me. I stopped talking to him, and he got upset and said he didn't even like me. He liked my appearance. Story 14. You are not black enough for me. When my date told me this, I excused myself to the bathroom and slipped out the side door of the restaurant, leaving her with the check. Story 15. I once had someone tell me they were uncomfortable with me telling my best friend that I'm meeting them, and she has my live location. So, they were upset I was careful after I had some seriously bad experiences. And then they said, why would you tell me you experienced this and that? Next time you meet someone, don't do that. Okay, thanks, bye. Story 16. He wouldn't stop talking about getting laid, even said how most women sleep with him on the first date. I wasn't looking for anything serious, but this guy seemed really full of himself to the point that it was a major turnoff. He really killed it when I told him I gave him a fake number Google Voice, and he said he not only knew but wouldn't tell me how because I gave someone like him a fake number. We paid our bills, he went to the restroom, and I dipped out. He didn't see me pull in when I arrived. So imagine my surprise when he pulls up beside me at a light and starts shouting at me from his car. I've been using a Google Voice number for online dating for years. I always tell guys, and he's the only one who wasn't respectful of me trying to be safe. Story 17. I was a suspect in the murder of my third wife. They never caught her murderer. It was then that I realized he had positioned himself so that the exit was behind him and the bathroom was behind me. In other words, I could not excuse myself to the bathroom and then make a run for it. I sat through the rest of the date and made sure I got safely home, then ghosted him. It was the only time I've ever ghosted anyone. Story 18. I went on a date with a guy and brought him to an Italian restaurant I really liked. It was a family-owned operation, and while not the most presentable, the food was amazing. Upon sitting down, he remarked, salt and pepper and shakers. Ha! Where are we, Waffle House? Basically insinuating that this place was trash based on this. I know it's a tiny thing, but I just couldn't shake it that he would make such a comment after I said how much I liked the place. Story 19. This is me telling on myself. I don't date much, but the first time I met a girl, we hit a lull in the conversation. For some reason, I tried to fill the lull with a discussion about what she wanted her wedding to be like. Maybe a little too soon for that discussion. Story 20. Are you sure you want to eat that? I wanted some fried banana peppers in addition to my small salad. I was also 118 pounds and exercised regularly. Good thing that dude was a jerk because I was on the fence about canceling my drinks date with another guy if this one went well. Luckily, Mr. Judgy McJudgerson was not it, and the man I may have canceled became my husband. Thank you, Bachelor number 1, for being an ass. Story 21. He was elect the entire date. At the end, he told me he would pray for me. The next day, I received a 4-page letter requesting that I excuse his behavior, but after all, I had encouraged it. Story 22. I had a Bumble date a few years ago, and within literally 2 minutes of meeting her, she started complaining about her ex, referring to him as cunt bucket. Instant red flag. Leave the ex talk until at least date 3. I didn't want to risk becoming a future cunt bucket. Story 23. Had a guy who bragged about being the son of a conservative politician who was under investigation, then noted that all his laundry was pawned off as military suits so that he could get it done for free. Openly gloated about using the system. He was so oily I went home and bathed in Dawn dish soap. No thanks. Story 24. I wish I was sent over there, Afghanistan, so I could see what size hole my gun could make in a body. My best friend suffers from severe post-traumatic stress disorder from his 2 tours in Afghanistan and developed leukemia that was connected to his service. At the time, he was going through one of his tougher times. I just said, "No, you don't." He apologized, but the date was ruined. Story 25. I asked what her hobbies were or what she liked to do for fun, and she said, Netflix and talking to boys. I was like, "Oh, I like Netflix too. What shows?" She responded with, "I just like having something on and sitting there. I don't really have favorite shows. I don't like doing anything that makes me sweat, and I don't like hobbies." I left that date in about 25 minutes. You like nothing? Not only am I the complete opposite of that, but she admitted to not liking something to do. I'm out of here. Story 26. We walked into a bar, and most of the people there were black. No big deal, I live in a southern city that's mostly black. Segregation might exist here, but you'd have to work for it. She had just moved to my city, so she wasn't accustomed to this, I guess. She took one look around and said, "Do you want to go somewhere where there's more people like us?" I thought she meant lesbians, so I said sure and suggested a bar a lot of lesbians go to. We get to the bar, and it's roughly a 50-50 split between black and white folks. She said, "There's still so many of them." I finally asked what she meant. Bold as day, she said, "Black people. There's so many black people. Date over." Story 27. Not said to me, but the fact that he took a casual phone call from his dad and talked to him for 10 minutes about nothing important while I just sat there nursing my beer and feeling awkward. He probably thought it made him seem super laid back. Story 28. Not the first date, but the first time we had sex. I forgot I left my Nouvering in, so it hurt when he tried to penetrate me. I couldn't understand why it was sore and was actually really worried, but he looked unbelievably smug and proud that his penis had hurt me. Maybe because it was validating as to his size, and said, "Don't worry, you'll learn to get better at taking it. My ability to take it is fine, for the record." Story 29. To be upfront, we had known each other at work for a few weeks before our first date. Our first date was an all-day event that began with brunch and lasted until nearly midnight, and honestly, it's one of the greatest days I've ever had in my life. At the end of the night, she said she's never had such an amazing day before and never felt so happy to be with someone. Then she said I'm exactly the type of guy she wants to marry and start a family with. The warning signs went up immediately. No second date. For a few days, I questioned whether I made the right call because the date was amazing, and she seemed to be too. But I was right. She got engaged to a guy about 30 years older than her 3 weeks after our date. On the day of their engagement, she accused him of cheating and shot him while she was a passenger in the car he was driving at the time. How do I know all this? The guy she killed was my cousin's ex-husband, and their 10-year-old son was also in the vehicle when this happened. Also, he wasn't cheating. The girl he had been texting, which led to this insane act, was his sister whom she hadn't met. He was murdered because of the erroneous assumption of an unstable person. I quite literally dodged a bullet. Story 30. The first story, I was talking about my experience going to Chicago. I said it was a cool place, but too easy to end up lost somewhere. The guy immediately said, "Yeah, there are too many black people there." Then a different guy told me in the middle of the date, "You're overweight and you have bad posture. You should go back to the gym." I said no to both, although the first one still tried for a while to get me to go back out with him until I blocked his number. Story 31. I showed a girl I was talking to a picture of a lizard that got stuck in my bathroom, And when I told her I just picked him up and put him outside, her reply was, "You should have squeezed him until his little heart came out of his mouth." I was like, what on earth? Story 32. She said something to the effect of, "I have 2 kids. Don't waste my time unless you plan to be a father to them. I'm okay with kids, but not with that approach." Story 33. I was out with a guy that I had found attractive for years, but never connected with for logistical reasons. We were having a great time together, and there was definitely chemistry. Then, out of the blue, he was talking about his previous relationship that ended in divorce a couple of years prior because his ex was difficult with a nasty mouth. He said she would not stop talking, even after being intimate, and one night he just rolled over and put his cigarette out right on her nipple. Yeah, that was enough for me.